Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get here with the truth. So today we're doing the what's next on Emanuel Navarrette, the reigning WBO Super Featherweight Champion at 130 pounds, following his hard-fought draw with Robson Conceicao, as he retained his world title with that draw. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So starting with, Navarrette and Conceicao, such a hard-fought victory right here for Navarrette. I mean, not victory, draw. I personally wouldn't have had a problem with Conceicao getting the victory here. I thought he had outworked Navarrette in most of the rounds. Majority. I thought he won 7 or 8 rounds, but the 2 knockdowns were significant. That hurt Conceicao, and it ended up causing the draw to happen. But the big question now is what's next for Navarrette following this victory. And I'll get him the potential move to lightweight out of the way right away. That's definitely there. I mean, I think him moving up to lightweight to fight either Shakur Stevenson or Vasily Lomachenko, I think it's gonna be one of those two if he makes the move to 135. Because Vasily, that fight right there could definitely happen, because I believe the WBO granted him super champion status, which means he can move up whenever he wants and fight at another weight class, fight for the title there. And I think he's waiting around to see what Devin Haney's going to do, so he knows what all his options are, because Devin Haney is the champ at 135 right now, but most people feel he's going to move up to 140 and defeat Regis Prograis on December 9th and become champion there, and then vacate the belts. Well, Vasily Lomachenko is the #1 contender at 130, and it would be Navarrette and Lomachenko if Lomachenko wanted that fight as well. But we know Lomachenko also has an option. If Haney gives up all his belts, he has the option of fighting George Kambosos Jr., the former unified champ, for the IBF title. So a lot of moving pieces here, and Lomachenko really can, it's really going to be up to what happens with Haney and then what Lomachenko wants to do. So that's an option for sure. The Shakur Stevenson fight, after Stevenson's performance, I don't know if Navarrette is going to be all that into fighting Stevenson right now. I think he might just hold up on that and seek out other options. And now we look at him potentially staying here at 130. We're going to look at the options of him staying at 130. So let's run through all the fighters that are currently in the top 10 and see what the possibilities are. We start with Oscar Valdez, a rematch. Not likely. Valdez, he really worked Valdez in that fight, totally and completely dominated him, in my opinion. I didn't think the fight was that close. Definitely not close enough to warrant a rematch, so I don't think so. A unification bout with Joe Cordina. I think both fighters would be interested, but they have so many other options within their own promotion to where they don't need to cross the street right now, and I don't think they're going to. Also, I want to throw in that Navarrette might be in mandatory mode, because the last mandatory was him and Liam Wilson, when they fought in February. That was the last mandatory fight. He ended up fighting Oscar Valdez, who was not his mandatory, and then followed that up with Conceicao. So he has not made a mandatory. The WBO could order a mandatory. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Excuse me. Jesus, that came out of nowhere. Then there's a unification with O'Shaquie Foster. Well, O'Shaquie Foster just signed with Top Rank. So this fight, a unification, is definitely possible especially if Foster would be into it. So I think this is one of those bouts that could definitely happen if Navarrete doesn't get the fight at 135 or isn't interested. I absolutely think him and O'Shaquie Foster is possible. Then there's former champ Hector Luis Garcia. He's a PBC guy. He's going to try to get back in line for the WBA title. Then there's Shavkat Rakhimov. Rakhimov is likely going to be competing in an IBF final eliminator to move in line for the IBF title. So not likely that Rakhimov and Navarrete come together. Then a rematch with Conceicao. I think it's very possible. I think Navarrete is probably pissed off and he probably wants the rematch. But I also would not be surprised if he didn't take it. I really wouldn't be surprised, because I think he's gonna look at that fight and go, you know what? It's not a fight I have to take, so maybe I'm gonna stay away from that one for now. But I think he wants to look better and possibly finish Conceicao and get his ass back in the ring. You know, but it is a risky fight. I did say that was gonna be, it wasn't gonna be a walk in the park, and that Conceicao was a very live underdog. So again, I think if he stays at 130, it's likely, you know, it could be because he wants to leave no doubt with Conceicao, but I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed away from him. Zelfa Barrett. Not likely. Barrett's with Matchroom. It's kind of a bad style matchup, and they would have to cross the street. I don't see that one. Lamont Roach Jr., the new WBA champion. I think if Lamont Roach had to choose, he would love to fight Navarrete. But again, because of the controversy of the way Roach won the WBA title, I do think there's a possibility he's going to have to rematch with Hector Luis Garcia next. So we'll see. And then rounding out the top 10, you got like Eduardo Hernandez, Rocky Hernandez, and Edward Vasquez, who both gave valiant efforts fighting for titles in their last fight but came up short. I don't think Navarrete is going to be interested in fighting guys coming off of losses. So I really believe for Navarrete, what possibly the options for him are Vasily Lomachenko at 135, depending on if Devin Haney gives up the belts. There's also the possibility of Shakur Stevenson at 135. Then at 130, I really think it comes down to two people. It's either a rematch with Conceicao or a unification bout with O'Shaquie Foster. Those are the only two guys that I think make sense for him to stay at 130 in his next bout. There also is the possibility of a mandatory against #1 contender Albert Bell. But he's not a big name. The WBO has not come in and said that they have to fight. And the WBO, I also don't believe never ordered a mandatory fight between Albert Bell and #2 contender Liam Wilson. So are they going to order that? Are they just going to order Bell because he's #1 contender to fight Navarrete? Will they grant Conceicao a rematch if Navarrete goes there? I think they would. And O'Shaquie Foster, they probably would definitely allow a unification bout. So a lot of options here for Navarrete. I personally am leaning towards the rematch with Conceicao or moving up to fight Lomachenko. I think those are probably the two most preferred options for him. I think third is the unification with Foster. Fourth would be challenging Shakur Stevenson at 135. And then last would be having to make a mandatory against Albert Bell. So we'll see what happens, but that's it. That's what I got. That's my what's next on 3-division world champion and current reigning WBO super featherweight champion Emanuel Navarrete, following his draw with Robson Conceicao as he retained the 130-pound title. Hope you enjoyed the video. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.